points us to a necessary intermingling. It proclaims that the holy is discovered through difference rather than sameness. And it calls us to struggle against every attempt to exclude or belittle others based on their race, religion, age, class, gender identity, sexual orientation, physical ability, immigrant status, or political affiliation. In our faith, we are reminded that an authentic religious community is created and sustained not by our feeling warm and fuzzy together, but by taking the spiritual risk of facing the discomfort together. That a community is built not just through achieving agreement all the time, but through achieving relationship. Channing called second for an earnest ministry. Today's demand, I would say, that we be balanced, to take serious matters seriously and ourselves more lightly. Because you see, it is possible to be terribly and terminally earnest, especially in moral and religious things, and lose sight of our common humanity. We ministers have been accused of that. I'm reminded of a newly ordained minister who was asked to hold a graveside service for someone with no family or friends. Taking himself and his duties very seriously, this minister left early the next morning for the cemetery. However, he made several wrong turns and quickly got himself lost. And when he finally arrived more than an hour late, the hearse was nowhere to be seen, and the two workmen were having lunch. So the minister got out of his car, quickly threw on his robe and his vestments, and hurried to the open grave. And looking into the pit, he saw that the vault lid was already in place. So with a sign, he took out his prayer book and read the burial service. Now, after he had left, one of the workmen said to the other, "You know, maybe we should have told him that he just blessed a septic tank." It is possible to be terminally earnest. To be whole and human and to maintain one's sense of humor requires an inner balance that perhaps only a religious community can help sustain in us. For you see, the speed-addicted, attention-deficit, instant gratification-seeking, downloadable world in which we live in demands an agile ministry. Our lives are rushed and harried, our hearts and souls are anxious, tired and fearful, and our relationships more neglected and frayed, perhaps more than ever. How infrequent it is that we actually pause to reflect, to wait, to wonder, to ponder, to even catch our breath. A ministry in our age must be agile indeed to help us stop, to see our lives more often, more constantly under the aspect of eternity, as Santayana put it. Our lives not as they seem, as they pass us by, but as they will remain when our story is over. A ministry must be agile indeed to bring our lives a sensibility that is both timely and timeless. Another demand of our age that requires a humane ministry is the demand of families raising children. What is desperately needed in our land is support for those whose primary spiritual practice is raising children. As the Reverend John Burns once remarked, we need an AARP for parents. We do. For we are the only advanced nation on earth which provides nothing in the way of aid publicly when a child is born. No national health insurance for children, no public daycare, and where parents, like the schools to which we send our children, are overstressed and undersupported. Where the spiritual, moral, and ethical education is left to the internet and television, where it is subverted every day by the money-grubbing media that cares nothing about nurturing our children's spiritual, emotional, intellectual, and social lives except their bodies. bottom line. We need a common social agenda. One demand of the age on pastoral ministry will be not only to support lifespan faith development within families of our own congregations, but a broader ministry of value-centered moral and ethical and spiritual education, of humane education that teaches compassion, reconciliation, and justice to the children of many others. The age in which we live in calls for an urgent ministry in response to the clear and pressing crisis that global warming and climate change pose for our fragile planet Earth. Environmentalist Bill McKibben, in his important new book, Earth, spelled with 2 A's, writes, we must regularly remind ourselves that we must change the way we live on this earth and change it fast. I take it on faith that there is yet sufficient time in emerging environmental understandings and sustainable technologies for humanity to change its ways and adopt new lifestyles to both live well and protect the fragile ecosystems of Earth for future generations. We need to develop and implement a new ethic of restraint, responsibility, and relinquishment, where we learn to live with smaller and less and simpler. Smaller homes, smaller cars, smaller diets, fewer luxuries and gadgets, and simpler lifestyles. For our religion owes much of its power, said Channing, to the power of the life of the woman or man who communicates it, and the greater the enlargement and the development of the mind from which it has possessed itself and from which it flows, the wider and deeper would be its actions on other souls. Which is why one of the chief demands of this age on our ministry is a prophetic ministry, a ministry that speaks truth to power. The age in many respects is a corrupt one, said Channing, and demands a spirit of reform. That much has not changed at all. Channing's call for a transformed religious liberalism is as relevant today as it was 189 years ago. The historical situation and intellectual climate are quite different today. Nevertheless, it is striking to see how our sense that we are living in a time of spiritual and social crisis, and our uncertainty about the ability of liberalism, of whatever stripe, to respond effectively to the needs of the age, have not abated, but only deepened. If we are to be a relevant force for spiritual and social transformation, we must rescue religious liberalism from its long-standing individualist and at times self-absorbed captivities. Otherwise, we risk becoming, as the Reverend Kim Beach once warned, a religious decompression chamber, or a way station for those passing from fundamentalism to the golf course. No offense to golfers. We have drifted in this direction for quite some time now, and it is time we got more focused on who we are, what we're about, and what our mission is in the larger world. Finally, the demands of the age on the ministry is not on me or Heather, but on each and every one of us. Ordained and non-ordained, all called into a covenant, a beckoning beyond what we want into what the world needs, where our deepest gladness meets the world's greatest need.